ASEAN Economic Forum, as you all know, was officially announced on the 30th of November last year by His Excellency Satwinder Singh, Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN Economic Community. We are a socio-economic developmental organization which focuses on creating dialogues between stakeholders for tangible outcomes. We are a sector-agnostic organization. We cover almost 7 to 8 of the SDG UN goals, mostly through the programs that we run. However, the ASEAN Digital Forum, the platform that we've joined today, is a very sector-focused program, and it is a series of dialogues which cover anything to do with digital. I would now like to invite Pak Sachin Gopalan for his opening remarks. Over to you, Sachin.
Well, thank you, Ashish, and a warm welcome to all speakers at the inaugural session of the ASEAN Digital Forum. I would just like to kick off with a few thoughts, which would be, in my opinion, a surprise truth about the ASEAN region. You know that ASEAN has a population of about 672 million. It's under 700 million, and that's 9% of the world's population. However, ASEAN contributes only 3% to the world GDP. What should be the real contribution? It should be closer to 10%. So, if we are to have a 10% contribution of the GDP, where will it come from? And we have to be realistic about what are the sectors of growth that allow that kind of multi-fold increase. And digital economy comes up as the #1 potential industry sector that will allow us to develop this whole region into an ASEAN digital economic hub. So this is the reason why the ASEAN Summit leadership made a joint declaration where they gave a lot of importance to digital transformation. And a result of that is that there is an ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement, DEFA as it is called, which is being negotiated as we speak. And in the negotiations, they are coming up with a common ground or a common agenda between all nations. They hope to sign it in 2025. And the purpose of that would be to open up this entire sector of ASEAN to be a digital hub. It has many implications. Would it be a digital hub because it's a market by itself? That's a 700 million market, domestic market, for the rest of the world to look at. Or it could be the hub that offers products and services in digital to the rest of the world, which means you need strong capacity building, human resources oriented programs. So our discussion at the ASEAN Digital Forum is centered around all of this, and I think the #1 issue that ASEAN is trying to grapple with is AI, artificial intelligence. So today we start with artificial intelligence as the main discussion, how AI will be shaping the vision for ASEAN's digital frontier. I think it's very timely because if you look at AI, it is the only democratized technology that can have a reach across all sectors, all industries, all kinds of people. It's not restricted alone to the techies of the world. And understanding the role of AI and the potential of AI, the opportunities of AI, the challenges of AI, and what are the safeguards we need to build this economy which has such a strong influence by AI is going to be the central topic around today. So with that, I would like to hand it back to Ashish, in the capable hands of Ashish and Harish, who are your moderators for the day. And I look forward to the socialization of the discussion today to go across to the rest of the region over the post-event promotion that we are doing on our social media channels. With that, we'll hope to keep engaged the audience across 10 countries in contributing a little bit more about how we can understand the starting point and how we go forward. Thank you very much, and back to you, Ashish.
Sachin, thank you for your opening remarks. At this stage, I'd like to bring in my co-moderator, Mr. Harish Pillai. Quick introduction on Harish. He is a man who puts on many hats. The color of most of his hats until recently was red. He was the chief architect for Red Hat. It has changed now. He now has a responsibility as the vice chair of the IT Standards Board of Singapore. He is also a member of the AI Verify Foundation. He has been on board of the Internet Society and continues to be an active participant in IETF, a proponent of open source. Over to you, Harish. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sachin, and thank you, Ashish, for those words. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to, kick off the session with a few, general remarks about what we're trying to achieve in this forum here right now. The objective of the event is really to, as highlighted by Sachin, is to look at the big elephant in the room today, and that is all about AI-related technologies and issues. But in order to address that, we need to look at what does that mean from a different aspects of how technology is supposed to be deployed, used, consumed, created within the ASEAN environment. So I'm going to be looking at dividing this conversation into four different parts, four different segments. One segment is about connectivity, which is really about how are we going to continue to have to drive the necessary technologies, the investments needed to make sure that we have high quality and reliable communications and especially because a lot of ASEAN is essentially on islands. So we need to ensure that we have opportunities to make that connected and functional. We also want to look at the framework that was proposed as part of ASEAN's DEFA, which is the Digital Economy Framework Agreement that was announced in September of last year by the ASEAN ministers. This is really a framework that helps define what are the things that needs to be achieved over the next few years as far as making sure that ASEAN's digital economy is really thriving and being able to be pushed to levels that have not been seen before. I just wanted to pull up one data point in that particular framework report. What it was suggested is that the DEFA, the DEFA, acknowledges that without a concerted, coordinated effort on the part of the different states within ASEAN, if you let this economy just thrive on its own, we expect to see about $1 trillion worth of business opportunities and growth by 2030. With DEFA as the driver behind it, it becomes a catalyst. And so the analysis is pointing to the fact that it can drive, instead of $1 trillion, to $2 trillion worth of GDP growth across ASEAN. So when you talk about connectivity, we talk about the framework, which is the DEFA framework, and then we talk about standards. Now, in order for all of this to work together, standards are very critical. And I would like our panelists to be able to help address and discuss issues around standards, especially those who are in the process of creating and developing and deploying standards in the respective geographies, as well as within organizations. And again, going back to the elephant in the room, we're talking about AI. So what is the impact of AI on ASEAN citizens? What would it be over the next 5 to 10 or 15 years? What would that be? And how can the DEFA framework help assist and manage that? Because the impact can be severe or it can be highly beneficial. And I got some topics that I would like to then ask with our panelists and have a discussion around it. So with that in mind, what I would like to do is I will call upon our panelists. So thank you very much to all of you for agreeing to be a panel member today. But I'll call out each person one, and maybe I will just pose a question to you about the area that I think may be relevant from your perspective based on what I understand. So let me first call upon Gerry Firmansyah, who is the National ICT expert with the National ICT Council in the Republic of Indonesia. So Gerry, my question to you would be, given the fact that you are looking at the ICT infrastructure and planning for ICT within Indonesia, where do you see the way standards are helping in terms of how the ICT infrastructure is being rolled out in Indonesia? What kind of challenges you have, given the fact that Indonesia is it's largely a lot of thousands of islands, so you have different constraints and different considerations. So I would like to hear from you, how does the connectivity part of it fit into the scheme of things?
Okay. Thank you. First, thank you for Pak Sachin, also Ashish and Haris as a moderator. Maybe I'm not answer about your first question, but I need to share what National ICT Council do. A few years ago, we collaborate with some stakeholders to develop study of AI bias and AI ethics. Also, today the Ministry of Communication create the issue of in number 9 to 2030 of AI intelligent ethics. So this is the ethic guide to support more effective implementation technology activity. This guide require mitigation impact and losing that, of course, minimize the threat posed by AI. So in terms of AI, the AI is the sometimes AI is the need of the data, right? In terms of the data, we Indonesia, we have the many island. So we in president regulation, we push how to create the connectivity, because every information we gathering from the every aspect in Indonesia. That's why we the minister push how to solve the connectivity. Also, if you look the news, the minister push the connectivity in the IKN, Ibu Kota Negara in Indonesia. So in terms of that, National ICT Council formulating a general policy about digital sovereignty, because if we create the connectivity, not the create digital sovereignty, I think the data can go to anywhere. So we ensure sovereignty over algorithm and data compliance as a foundation of AI. Maybe that's Mr. Haris.
Thank you. I think that is very good, because I have some points to bring to that, and I'll bring it to you later. All right. So thank you, Gerry. Let me now also move to. So let me then now probably move to from a framework perspective, because we talked about the DEFA framework and so on. So let me bring Cyrus onto to the mic. Cyrus, I mean, how do you think from a IDC's perspective and your familiarity with the need to build good infrastructures for different kinds of solutions, financial transactions, and e-commerce and all that. So, I'd like to hear from you. What have you seen so far that works, and what does, what's your take on, and how would, second part to that question, how would AI-related stuff impact or help or assist? Over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Harish. Thank you, Economic Forum, for inviting us. I think there are multiple inhibitors at play. So let me start with that, Harish. You talked about connectivity, and so did the panelists before you. I don't think we're going to solve two major problems: the sheer amount of compute that is required to be a proficient company in AI, the underlying data that goes into an AI-driven decision policy or a decision framework, and of course, the ultimate last mile, which is the connectivity. Now, ASEAN happens to be, let's call it the last frontier, where institutions, telecom operators, regulators are working through very feverishly to get to the maturity level of, say, Korea or Japan, maybe, or Taiwan for that matter, but that's because they are small. Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, they are large archipelagos, they are scattered, and hence connectivity is either A, non-existent, or B, very expensive because they go, like in Indonesia, they go via satellite. So whilst we are talking about the use case, which is the ultimate goal and the ultimate trophy, which is AI, I think there's still a bit of work to be done when it comes to your A, telecommunication network, and of course, fiber optic connectivity everywhere, or at least almost everywhere. Two, we are looking at very large MIPS compute and data requirements for AI to be valuable and AI to be, let's call it, effective. And three, I think we get so wrapped up in the hype, we forget what problem are we going to solve with this onslaught of AI. Are we doing what we call a farm to plate when it comes to agriculture using AI? Are we doing weather pattern predictions when it comes to fisheries? Are we doing something around education where the output is a ChatGPT output? So those use cases, I think, need to be thought through. So connectivity, data, and its underlying infra, and of course the use case, I think that's the pivotal point that we are at, all of us. And I think once that is solved, we will be able to save the world, so to say. So that's my take.
Thank you for that, Cyrus. Let's hope we really can save the world. But you know, we can always be positive, and I think that is a very important trait to have. I like what you mentioned about the need for you know, the compute perspective, and also the amount of hype there is around what AI is and what AI can possibly be solving. And you also propose some places where it can be useful, weather prediction, crop, you know, to help with the farmers and so on. So I think those are use cases. And one of the things I would probably want to suggest also is that when we look at AI solutions, we want to look at solutions that are fairly narrow and specific to a particular domain, because that is a lot more palatable and much more explainable than something that is a general purpose type of AI. So I'll take your point from there, and we can discuss that as we go down the line. Maybe is Professor Marsudi back? Is he available? Can he speak now? If not, I will go on to maybe I'll just go on to the next panelist here. I'd like to now invite Ajar or to the mic to speak about and to this question, which is, you know, from a provider of technologies and so on, as an organization, Ajar, your organization is providing all kinds of services and solutions. How do you reckon, in terms of a policy perspective, you know, the nature of the solutions that you're looking to create for your customers? What is your policy perspective from an AI perspective? Again, tying it to what Cyrus had said earlier about the need for, you know, compute, and, you know, the cost structures of compute are not going to be easily met, simply because, you know, these things are really a big challenge. So Ajar, if you could take the mic and you know, see if you can you know, have answer some of those questions. Ajar? I'm not hearing anything.
Answers for our cloud computing, and it's related to AI. So it is already within the DEFA. It means that ASEAN region already requests some critical issues related to platform maintenance. The second thing that regarding cross-border data flow, it is also maybe all of us aware before last this G20 in Bali declarations, that it is also mentioning about data free flow with trust. So all countries would like to see the economic growth using this digital transformation era, and now we are moved to AI era. So there is a continuity between G20, ASEAN, and now in India also similar, G20 in India. We have, multilateral organizations have common understanding about this principle. The second thing related to AI and policy, I would like to applaud first the government, the Minister of ICT Indonesia. They issued on ICT Minister circular letter on ethics of AI. It is a voluntary perspective where if you would like to utilize using AI both for private or government organizations, there are certain responsible principles that we need to acknowledge it. And that's in December, and in last January 2024, there was ASEAN AI Guide. So I believe in terms of perspective on the policy, we are on the stage of voluntary commitment, mostly in ASEAN, also ASEAN AI Guide, it is also voluntary. But if we try to compare with other countries, let's say in USA after AI White House AI Code of Conduct, and then it is followed by executive order or to make it more binding. Other continents also doing the same thing. So I would like to see that how after ASEAN AI Guide, every country's members of ASEAN would like to encourage to have policy in place, of course, that adopt responsible principles, because it is critical how we can manage the risk, mitigate the risk, while harnessing potential benefit from AI, from generative AI. And then another thing that critical about to answer this innovation accelerations, not hampering for the economy. And while after having regulation in place, about adopting best practices, responsible AI, cross-border data flows, also how we are preparing for these transitions between public sector, private sector in terms of AI, because this is also critical after policy in place. There are several policy within critical infrastructure, cybersecurity, cloud computing that need to be also in place to as a backbone for this AI ecosystem. So far, maybe that's from me first. Before we can continue for other discussion, I hope you get the point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajar. That's useful. So I think just to summarize what you had said was one of the things that you are looking at is making sure you have the opportunity for mitigating risk with some of the ideas that is coming from the US documents that have been put out by the US White House from AI risk. And also, to be an innovation accelerator. Okay, great. So I think what I will do next is I will move on to the next person on our panel, Kishore from ITU. Kishore, because of your background and your, you are from the ITU, which is really one of the oldest organizations, a part of the UN that deals with communication and so on and so forth. I'm sure as an organization, you have plenty of experience in trying to figure out how to work different organizations and disparate parties together. Now, given the fact that, again, ASEAN being as widespread as it is, we have with 700 million people and, thousands of islands, how do you think, from your perspective, from a connectivity perspective, the policies of ITU will dovetail into what ASEAN can benefit from? Kishore, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sachin, and very good afternoon to all the distinguished panelists here, and as well as members who are watching, this event. Thanks very much for asking the important question, especially if you look at the twin goals, strategic objectives of ITU. One is universal meaningful connectivity and sustainable digital transformation. it fits into all the engagements and discussions what we are mentioning, how AI as a technology or one of the emerging technologies, how it can contribute, especially for digital economic progress, as well as enhancing the contribution from ASEAN region, as one of the three speakers mentioned. Hawaii is not around 10% rather than 3% currently. Most of us might have heard about this EDG ministers meeting which happened recently, that is ASEAN Digital Ministers meeting, which took place recently in Singapore, which deliberated on many of the issues, many of the key critical issues, what way ASEAN as a group can progress forward, especially on digital engagement. And when you specifically ask about connectivity, if you look at ASEAN as a region, yes, there are lot many islands, as well as different terrains, and as well as different degrees of progress in terms of connectivity, as well as using connectivity as a a tool for social digital economic transformation. So one of the good thing what we need to look at is that how do we bridge the digital divide, especially which can enable through its sustainable digital transformation and meaningful connectivity, how all these new technologies, including AI, can reach a common man as well as can reach enterprises to make best use of this engagement, especially on technology front. Yes, working on building robust, resilient networks is one of the key priorities for all of us in enabling this digital transformation engagement. And yes, we also heard from IDC about the need for investments in infrastructure, including optical, mobile, as well as networks. Yes, which is one of the very important area, especially when you look at the different countries are progressing differently in terms of deploying the network as well as availability of infrastructure. That's what we see the leadership commitment from most of the ASEAN countries, that they want to make significant investments, especially on building the robust digital infrastructure. And some of you might have also heard about the annual publication from ITU, which is called activities of AI, activities on AI across UN bodies as well as UN agencies. The latest document available is 2022 publication, which shares about what different UN entities are doing on the AI front. And of course, as the discussion progresses, I'm going to share with you some of the activities and how ITU can help in terms of not only technology development, technology standardization, and also technology adoption of AI, how it can support the member states and as well as agencies, enterprises, and as well as organizations in the region. And you might have also heard about something called AI for Good Summit, which is hosted by ITU annually, which happens in, I think the dates are May 30th and 31st. It touches upon the three important aspects, which some of you mentioned about what are the key, use cases, applications of, AI. How AI can be proliferated, making, bringing in a lot of social equity as well as digital transformation. So we welcome, to be part of that engagement as well, especially where you can look at how AI is transforming specific sectors, especially making it a kind of emerging technology tool, in making, in transforming many of these sectors, not only in the economic segment but also the social segment. Thank you, and I wait for additional questions from you, where we can speak more about technology standardization and we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore. I think what you were, alluding to was that we need a lot more standards around the various communication technologies that needs to be deployed and created and consumed. I think we will come back to that in a bit. Now, what I'd like to do is to welcome Lukas, who is with the Indonesian AI Society, and I think he clearly, Lukas, I think you clearly have a lot of possible ideas to share with us on what does it mean from a AI perspective, since you have a group of people working with you on AI related stuff. So let me put this question to you, and this is something that I was looking at a couple of weeks ago. The idea of a sovereign AI. In other words, you want to have solutions that are within a country from that perspective, or within a state or something of that nature. It's a sovereign AI. Then now you're not dependent on anybody else. You control and you manage and you build your own. It's just a suggestion. It's as a sovereign AI. Now, with that as an introduction, over to you, Lukas, for your comments on AI, and from your perspective, what do you see? Lukas?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sachin and ASEAN Economic Forum for inviting us to this honorable event. Thank you, Haris, for the question. My name is Lukas. I'm representing the Indonesia Artificial Intelligence Society. And as the question mentioned by Haris, this society we just started about 5 years ago, consisting of quadruple helix from the government, business, academia, as well as the societies, the people, the common people. We have been discussing many things, and we have been through several milestones. I think when we started 5 years ago, it was something like everyone has no real or concrete idea about what should we do with AI. And then our first effort was altogether we created about 100, a committee of 100 people headed by Professor Hamam from PWT. We started with the AI National Strategy of Indonesia, and in the year of 2020 we completed that one, and Indonesia finally in the AI map of the world. Because previously we were concerned because many other countries has already started their efforts and has put their ideas about what's their plan in AI. Why Indonesia National Strategy is important? Because as mentioned by previous speakers, Indonesia is Indonesia in ASEAN also the largest country. So we have the largest population, and mainly what is interesting for AI is Indonesia has many varieties of many things. People, we have many languages, more than 300 I think. Also India is more. In ASEAN we have also flora fauna, many kind of species, which is that's the heritage. And so from around the world we have many kinds of species, and then so nature, people, also many kinds in the cultural aspect. And on all those varieties also important as something we can apply AI as data, because one of the important aspect of the AI application, and when the problem or when the business involving many kinds of data, and there people not only using the manual, the common, the traditional way of computation, but we can apply the big data, the AI. So we are anticipating and we are expecting that AI will be beneficial to Indonesia, because that's what will be something tools that helps us to understand about the situation and give us many possible ideas, insights about what to develop. So government with business also tries to discuss some regulation about how to develop this AI. So far, I think, as mentioned by Ajar, so last December there was a circular letter from the ministry about ethics. That's at least something to guide us, to guide business in developing AI. Because also around the world, the fear of AI will give a negative impact to the society also need to be anticipated. So that's in one hand. But the request from the business also, there should be some room, some space of innovation where they still have to innovate without too rigid or being over-regulated like some other some domains. In Indonesia, we very common to say that like health is a very over-regulated domain where it's very difficult to create new ideas because all rules about data privacy, about the procedure and so on and so on. So and that's in one hand the development. The other challenge is also Indonesia is very large with more than 270 million population with very heterogeneous level of education and economics. So AI is still being enjoyed by very limited people, especially in Java, especially in Jakarta. So our concern, of course, to make it more fair to everyone, we should start with the infrastructure, of course, the internet, as mentioned also by the previous speaker. Government has the responsibility to prepare that equal opportunity for all the people to access this internet, because that's basic things. By accessing the internet, then at least they have better education and economic access. Later on, then they can also have the ability or the opportunity to enjoy the AI services to serve them. So we are seeing the balance. We are expecting the balance between AI being developed by business and using all of these potentials in one hand, but on the other hand, we also expecting that the AI being developed by business also respecting the ethics, the privacy, the security of the people. I think that's my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lukas. That's helpful because I think you did touch on some very critical components and aspects that we need to be discussing here as well. Infrastructure being the bottom line there. I have just been informed that Professor Masudi may not be able to join us, so we will therefore move on to the next person here, which is very in some ways ties into what Lukas has mentioned to Raj, who is coming from an Apnic Foundation, and it's all about the internet and connectivity, because at the end of the day, in order to achieve the kind of things that we are planning to achieve and what we want to get done from a ASEAN perspective, from a digital empowerment, if you don't have the internet working the way it does, we'll have a huge problem, and it's not going to be easy. So Raj, thank you for coming on. Let me ask you the question here. Where do you see from your perspective in the Apnic, which is really offering a set of solutions and services to to how to run the basic internet core for everybody to benefit from? Where do you see, given the ASEAN's challenges in terms of the the distributed nature, the thousands of islands, and so on, the archipelago that we have, and from your perspective, where do you think if we are going to be using and deploying AI as solutions for benefiting the citizenry, how can the fact that we are so dispersed be addressed and bridged from your perspective? Over to you, Raj.
Thanks, Harish. And sounds like you're also asking me to solve all the world's problems as well. Thanks for the opportunity, and I apologize for joining late. I had an overlapping commitment prior to this. Look, so a couple of thoughts I have on this. One, let me premise it by saying that the hype around AI is so well marketed, but I think there is a need to have a pragmatic approach to what it actually means in practice. Second, having been in and around this space for more than a couple of decades now, every so often we have new technologies come around which appear to be solutions looking for a problem. And I fear some aspects of the marketing hype around AI play into that as well, where it's going to be a solution to everything. Now, it may very well be a solution to all our problems, but in order for those solutions to work and for AI itself to deliver on the promise it's making, some basic things need to be in place. And this is what really concerns me around the ASEAN region, you know, as I talk to people, be it governments or private sector elsewhere across the 10+1 economies in ASEAN, we all recognize the fact that the level of development across ASEAN is very, very diverse. Right? We've got some of the most advanced countries in the world, frankly, and we have some of the most disadvantaged economies in the world, all within ASEAN. So when we start talking about a solution for ASEAN, you know, I ask the question, which part of ASEAN are you actually talking about? Are you talking about the Singapores and Malaysias of the region, or are you talking about the other ones who are not as economically and infrastructurally aligned with the new digital era or the forward-looking digital era? And you know, when we have these courses and discussions like this, I think it's very important to recognize that fact, okay? Because we get so carried away with, you know, be it our individual organization pitches and et cetera, et cetera. And you also have to recognize that there's a lot of people who will listen or read to these sort of things, and they may also get carried away with the hype, right? So I think some level setting is very important. Now, going back to your actual question on, you know, what is actually needed in ASEAN, I think it's been said multiple times, and maybe I may be repeating things that I missed during the beginning of the session, and someone may have already talked about all this. But, you know, infrastructure remains key, and there are many elements to that infrastructure, right? Now, if we start talking about all this computing power that's required, I think Cyrus mentioned something to that effect. The fact remains, again, not the fact remains, the question I ask is, where will that computing power be based? Will it be in country, or will it be an offshore system somewhere in the cloud that we will be using to do the processing, do the computing, and deliver whatever the output is to whoever's using it? Now, if we say it's going to be somewhere overseas, and, you know, due to the global nature of the internet and the systems that run on it, you don't know where that may be. But if you don't have local infrastructure, and when I say local infrastructure, you know, it's not just the local, not just the last mile, right? It's the middle mile, it's the transit capacity, it's the international transit, it's the routing between those systems. If they are not capable to support the bandwidth and the latency requirements, then how is it that we're going to make all this magic happen with the AI? No one has been able to explain that to me, right? So that is what I would really like to emphasize here. And then beyond just having the capacity, be it bandwidth or latency, the questions of redundancy and resilience. Where are the data centers located? Are we sure that the data centers can support what is required? What if the cable system goes in? And we've had instances in the past where it has, or even the satellite links going down. Harish, you mentioned that, you know, it's a very dispersed set of islands and economies that we have, and same problem lies there, right? Will every person in every island, in every part of ASEAN, have the same opportunity that someone, say, sitting in Jakarta or Singapore or KL or Manila will have? I think the answer is no, right? So, you know, so I think, you know, taking a bit more pragmatic approach would be good. So I have, I mean, and you know, I hate it when people just talk about problems and no one offers a solution. So I will try and offer a small solution. You know, the framework I think that's being developed or is being developed is great, but maybe what we also need attached to that is a roadmap. And I think that roadmap could be tweaked to each individual economy in the ASEAN region. And there are very specific challenges and opportunities indeed that may arise out of that, right? And I also think the roadmap should have, no, it's not just about infrastructure. I think it's also about human capacity development, right? Because you need people not just to use the systems, but also to operate and maintain it. And right now we see a big gap in the cybersecurity space in human capacity. We see a big gap in operation and maintenance of networks. Just earlier today, I was having lunch with an old friend of mine. He just told me that his son's going off to university in Singapore. And I asked him, what is he studying? He said, AI. Right. I said, okay, everyone wants to go study AI because it's sexy, but then who's going to run the networks? No one wants to study that sort of stuff anymore, right? So I think that capacity still needs to be developed. Now, how do we address that? That is, I think, an open question. A lot of organizations are doing little bits and pieces here and there, including my own organization. But, you know, we have to take a holistic approach, right? And that should also be part of the roadmap that I was suggesting earlier. So I'll pause there, Harish. I think I've probably taken too much time. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. I think, you know, this is it's an issue that we all are grappling with, a capacity building in any form and shape and manner in all aspects. So thank you for taking that comment that way. Now, having said that, I think, you know, I'd like to bring the next person on, Ayu. She's part of a set of ventures, and she has been doing their work in property and hospitality And so I guess my question to Ayu will be, how does she feel or think, how does AI help in the property sector, for example, or businesses, and as an entrepreneur trying to get AI solutions into startups, and areas that make sense, that you can actually use AI in a narrow sense, not in a broad sense, but in a narrow sense. For billing services, perhaps for things of that nature. But again, to you to see what you have seen so far in terms of how AI has been able to, or maybe not yet, to support the kind of work that you are doing. So, Ayu, over to you.
Hello, thank you everyone. So actually I may want to incorporate maybe some experience from outside as well, beside how it is AI has been used in Indonesia, because Indonesia mostly AI is still within perhaps banking system, or healthcare system, maybe some industrial systems such as automotive. And for example, also AI industry's impact in Indonesia's GDP last year, 2023, based on the last report by Statista, is actually less than 1% of the total GDP. So it is still a very small market. It is growing, and there is, after talking also with Lukas here, who's also from AI Society Indonesia, it seems like there's a lot of energy and anticipation in this industry. But at the same time, yes, it is at the beginning still for Indonesia specifically and Southeast Asia. But going to question the sense of how AI will develop, maybe if we look at completely something different, such as Gen Z. Gen Z Indonesia is one of the interesting parts that I just saw in a report by IDN here, is that the content creation career is one of the sort of sought after career, as well as interesting in terms of growth for that sector. Now, I'm with GDP Ventures as well, and we have investments overseas in it, and also besides technology, we are also in entertainment. So, for example, in the US now, there's something called Sora AI, which is converting video content using text. So that is something very interesting and different, but yet at the same time, it's quite a debate also in that industry. And meanwhile, for example, for the Asian American community in the US, for example, in the entertainment industry, they see Sora AI as a complementary tool rather than sort of a substitution to, for example, for the existing content writers or playwright writers, things like that. So, for example, in entertainment, video dubbing is quite expensive, or also difficult to do. But with perhaps like Sora AI, these things can be done much cheaper, and which means content from Asia, from Africa, or other countries, it will be much. You would have more bigger audience because they'll be able to do dubbing for most of the content. Or, for example, also for in Hollywood, you have like 800 million studios to create all these effects, amazing effects for like blockbuster movies. But with Sora AI, they will be able to create content much cheaper. So some content creators, Gen Z content creators of from Asia, from Africa, from other sort of less developed countries will be able to create their content quite interestingly enough from with a similar kind of like maybe level to Hollywood or other blockbuster movies. So this is actually like very interesting discussion. So this is something also I would see would be interesting for Indonesian market as the digital creation, content creation is growing as well in this part of the world. That is just one example of, for example, what your question is in terms of how AI would impact Indonesia. I think I'll pause there for now.
Haris?
Yeah, thank you. I like that idea about content creations, to be done using AI tools, especially, as you mentioned, from African countries and, other countries that may not have had the opportunity to be providing content to the likes of Hollywood and so on. So yeah, I mean, that could be an area where AI can be helpful in terms of job creation and so on and opportunities. I think that's an interesting take. So thank you for that. Let me now move on to the next panelist, Bayu, who has been doing stuff in the digital banking space and e-commerce. To hear from you about how does that work that you're currently doing, how does that impact from a policy perspective, and what's your take on policy from an AI perspective for the digital banking components? Bayu, over to you.
Thank you. Yes. So it's equally. Okay. Yeah, we know that the digital transformation has been around in Indonesia for maybe about 10 years. And then later on, the government really pushed for the acceleration of digital transformation, in which on top of digital transformation, there's new thing that has become popular is the AI, the artificial intelligence. As we know that the digital transformation, the digital approach is very effective and efficient. It will scale up the economy, while the AI itself is something on top of it, which has a high effectiveness and at the same very high risk. Yeah. So in the World Economic Forum Global Risk Report 2024, just a few weeks ago, the risk of AI, let me see, is just below the risk of natural disaster. So if I can read it, that the number one global risk is extreme weather. And the number two is AI-generated misinformation or disinformation. And the third place is societal and political polarization. And the fourth is cost of living crisis. And the fifth is cyber attacks. So you can see that the risk of AI for misinformation is just only one of the risks. Is already number two after the extreme weather globally. It's globally. Yeah. What about ASEAN? If we see the people in ASEAN in terms of the education, is I think on average is less than the average of the world, of the advanced countries, especially from the advanced countries. For example, Indonesia. Indonesia adult population is 60% only have 9 years education. So this tool of AI is very effective in the hands of the people who can use it. If the people are not educated enough, then they cannot use it. Then it becomes contributing to more digital gaps between those who can and those who cannot. And that's one risk that we should work together as ASEAN. As we know that there's ethic principles that has been issued by the Minister of Information and ICT in Indonesia. It's good. It's just a question whether it's enforceable. It is not. Ethics is only for the good people. The bad people doesn't care about ethics, right? So the ethics should become law, regulations, just like in China, right? And considering that ASEAN is very close to each other, the cross-border criminals and actions, we can say that it could happen quite frequent. So I think
if the ASEAN can work together to set up the rules and regulations, not only ethics, of using AI. For example, in China, one of the regulations is that when you process AI, and then the output should be, you should put a stamp on it that this is generated by AI, the product. Does it help everything? No, but at least it makes the separation between this is what you have to do, and if you don't do that, then you violate the law, and there's penalties waiting. Yeah, so I think in the terms of countries, if we see that our people is less educated, we have to take higher roles as parents, because it's just like those people are just like children. Exposed to something that even adults are difficult to handle. That's one thing. Second thing is that the second risk of AI, which is not in the second place itself, it's not described yet, that AI will replace jobs. As we know, along the histories of countries can be developed countries through industrializations, except Singapore, right? Singapore can jump directly to the surface, but most of countries going through manufacturing with intensive labor, and they invite all the foreign investors because they have cheap labor cost. But with AI, even the cheap labor is not competitive enough with AI. There are many things that can be done by AI, even can take place at the bachelor level of education of technical skills. So it's very important, because we know that as a developing countries, we have the young generations, the young populations, which we call in Indonesia demographic bonus, is very high. Then they have a lot of energy, and then when they find that there's no work for them, the energy can be directed to working, or it can be destructive, right? So we should take care of this carefully, because then we have to think. Of course, all the governments, all the people say, hey, we're doing upskilling, we're doing reskilling. How many percent of that upskilling and reskilling can be done to those populations, right? So what about the rest? What should we do with that? I think this kind of things and actions are better discussed among countries, especially in ASEAN, because they have more or less the same demographic, except Singapore. Singapore is an outlier in the ASEAN. But most of the countries face the same challenges. So I think that's the way that the government of ASEAN can work together. I'm a consultant in the banking sector, and also I'm a medical doctor, so I also see the healthcare sector. I can see that in banking sectors, that's one of the examples that how the regulators of the financial institutions, the OJK, is quite proactive in developing rules and regulations for banks, so that they really use the technology wisely and for the benefits of people. Even they just issued the rules of to assess their own digital maturity. But then, if we see that these rules only binds the banks, while if people are not in banking, the rules doesn't apply. Talking about the community, I think there are banking sector is only a few percent of the total national interest. So I would say that we can take a benchmark from how the OJK is taking care of the financial sector to think how to apply it in a larger scale, right? so that we can use this AI. I know that AI has a lot of benefits. It's just that the same risk, same amount of risk is there as well. Yeah. So while the benefits can be, amplified, the risk itself, we should try to contain the risk as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Bayu. I think you did make some important points in terms of the gap in terms of skills and opportunity to sufficiently work with AI for segments of the population. Thank you for that. Let me bring in Ari from PLN to talk about the kind of considerations from a digital transformation as well as from an infrastructure perspective, and in relation to everything else we have been talking about. So Ari, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, Pak Haris and gentlemen, ladies. Thank you for inviting me here to share about the AI and digitalization. Now I lead the company name PLN Icon Plus, is the subholding or a big subsidiary of PLN that focusing on the digitalization and the beyond electricity business solutions. So previously I led the IT division of PLN in the middle of the big transformation in PLN since 4 years ago, that we map out all of the problems from the whole business processes in PLN electricity sectors, from the power generation, transmission, distribution, and also the customer services. So regarding this digitalization, we map out the root cause. The problem statement here is not only building the apps and applications, but it is about the business processes or the business case that we have to develop. What kind of the business case that deliver the objectives for us? So we define the objectives for the like us, the business entity. First one is to deliver the more customers experience. So it is have to be impacted into the increasement of the customers experience. This is first one that we highly notice on the digital transformation. Second one is to increase our productivity and to monetize our assets. This has happened in the big companies such as us in PLN, the electricity company, that have maybe the biggest one of the state-owned company that have assets here. And it is also related to the monetization and utilizations of the electricity assets. So this is what we highlight, is to increase the value of the assets. So that's why since 4 years ago, we started to initiate what we call the internet broadband services. So the idea is to monetize the assets. The assets productivity of PLN or electricity company is still very low compared to the revenue. So that's why we concerned to increase the value. At the same time, we also want to contribute into the digital equality of the nation. So this is highlight our transformation spirit, the backgrounds that we started the journey since 3 years ago. Then along the years, we face the challenges, the new technology inside, beside of the business processes that we have mapped out. So we have to adapt to the new technology, and in the recent years, maybe in PLNs 2 years ago, we are introduced to AI. Then we want to also implement this with the business cases, focuses on the customer's experiences first. Second one is in the asset management. So regarding the AI or the digital equality, in terms of monetizing our assets, we lay the fiber optics. Previously, we lay fiber optics in our assets only for the offices or the substations of electricity. So we expand it into the households now. So by the end of 2023, we have reached more than 2.5 million home passes that is ready with fiber optics in front of the house. So this is the methods of what we utilize our assets like that. And after that, 40 to almost 50% take-up rate from that home passes now is accessing the internet beyond the electricity. So it is the value that can get by the customers. Then today, this year, we also willing to expand it more because at the end of 2023, we have reached 70% of the cities of Indonesia that has been accessed by our fiber optic assets. And we are also concerned about the villages. So there are about 70,000 to 80,000 villages in Indonesia. By the end of last year, there's around 12,000 of the villages have been covered by our infrastructure. So this is what we oftenly inviting the stakeholders and also to the Ministry of Communication and other societies that we have to build what we call collaboration. So it is very important. Why? Because what I see is everyone is going into the same areas without increasing the penetration of digitalization significantly, because all are coming into the same areas. So the penetration is not increased fundamentally. That's why we have to collaborate. We have to map out the stakeholders in Indonesia. For example, we coming from the electricity companies have the strength, and other maybe have a strength as well. So the question is how to increase digital penetration of nation. What we see, there are two things. First one is infrastructure have to be covered the whole the nation that can be supported strongly by us and maybe some others. Second one is the content. It's very important that what triggered the users to use the bandwidth after the infrastructure is ready. So the content developer or content creator, as I heard from the previous speakers, is very important to increase the real penetration, the digital literacy of the nation. So those are two things that I see to increase the digital literacy, the digital equality, by map out all of the stakeholder strengths and do the collaboration. Now we from business entity doing it from our side proactively. So we invite each stakeholders, we do some business deals with content, with infrastructure, with technology providers for AI, for example, dividing the use cases. So it can be bolstered more accelerated, more bigger if more stakeholders come, especially from the governments, maybe from the societies that can make us together and have a roadmap and milestones. What's the map? What is the milestones that will be reached by us? Maybe my view about digitalization or strength from the point of view of PLN regarding our strength in the access of the electricity and the massive digitalization that we internally need to the customers and to increase the value of the assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. I think everything that we're talking about now, and for the last just over an hour, will not work if there's no power, there's no electricity. Everything fails, right? So it's so critical and so important that is a core component, and the fact that we actually have functional systems, it's testimony to the amount of engineering and work has been done over the last 30, 40, 50, 100 years. So, but we have to move forward with that. And so now, one of the things that I think was highlighted by different speakers so far has been about the skill sets and how do we ensure that the population that we have are able to be able to participate, to benefit from, and to be able to use the tools and technologies we're talking about from an AI perspective. So with that, let me just bring on board Nalin, who is from Orbit Future Academy, and to talk about his perspective from a skills enablement, people enablement, from a AI perspective. Essentially, it's about capacity building. So Nalin, over to you.
Thank you, Harish. Thank you, ASEAN Economic Forum. Thank you, Indonesia Economic Forum. Hearing all the speakers, they covered a breadth of topics. I will not touch upon topics they've already covered, but try to bring a layman's view because I'm an accountant, not a technologist. Unfortunately, or fortunately, in the business of where my organization is at the departure gate of formal education before people get jobs. So I heard a lot about ethics, access, demographic bonus, startup, governance, etc. Here are some thoughts of mine on this. AI, for it to fundamentally be successful, requires a large amounts of data on which a computational logic with computational power is applied to solve for a particular problem. Who has large amounts of data? The government, the large tech companies, and public sector enterprises. Are they going to share it with startups? Now, the most popular AI stories that we hear today of generative AI are startups that have been in existence for 5 to 8 years, have been funded for $100 to $200 million, and backed by the large tech companies, and hence they are fashionable today. Where are such startups in our countries? It's not going to happen. We are fooling the young people. It's not going to happen. Second, when we look at access to technology and infrastructure, where do you need access? Now, to access AI and computational power, you have the internet and electricity, but you need dense pockets of access, computational power, where companies actually run computational logic. If they are large tech companies, they have server farms of their own. The smaller startups need support. They need these dense areas of technology where you can actually access to, to test out your idea and test out stuff if you get access to large data. As far as governance and ethics is concerned, we are in an ironical situation where globally, where industry always says to the government, stay away from us, don't regulate us. Here, the pioneers of AI and the largest tech companies are begging the governments to regulate them. Please regulate us. Why? There is really a serious chance of potential social chaos caused by AI. Now, the speed at which AI has grown and is growing by the minute versus the speed at which the governments discuss these things before they act, make a rule and implement, it'll be too late. They are living in Lala's land. Train has left the station. They are talking of ethics and making laws and rules and putting some watermark here and watermark there. Train has left the station. They are really way, way behind this. I heard about demographic bonus, and I hear a lot about this in India, Indonesia, and ASEAN. Demographic bonus was a real bonus when there were blue-collar jobs and physical labor. When work can be done on a computer by anybody from anywhere with half a brain, it doesn't matter whether you're 60 or 16. There is no demographic bonus unless you're going to put people to build skyscrapers in Dubai. So this whole demographic bonus thing has been blown out of proportion, in my view. It is not as big as people think it should be. It was, if it was in the 1970s and 80s, or even 90s and 2000s when India shipped thousands of warm bodies to the West. That's not happening anymore. Anybody can work from anywhere, regardless of their age. If you look at countries in ASEAN and AI relevant to that, there is a whole generation that is between the age of 16 to 25, which is digitally native. But there's an equally big generation between 25 to 40, which thinks that it is digitally native, but is completely cut off from AI and modern technology. Organizations like us that are working in trying to reskill this population, the sad part is you may have a demographic bonus, but if they don't have the will to learn, will to get upskilled, and they don't understand that they need to reskill, unless they get shocked, like you're seeing in the advertising and marketing world where jobs are going off at a very rapid pace, nothing really is going to happen. So a lot of these remain as intellectual conversations. And a final point, most universities are saddled with government regulation, where you can have a professor teach only if they're a PhD or they're an industry practitioner of 15 to 20 years. Where are you going to find such people for AI? And AI is not a 3 to 5 year course, it's a 6 to 12-month course. And AI is a practicing science like being a pilot or being a doctor. And it has got wide specializations. Just talking about AI doesn't make sense. Countries need to find out which field of AI is most relevant towards creating products for their own sovereign nations, and then regional, and then global. I'll close with that and hand it back to you, Harish.
Thank you, Nalin. I think that was a great set of ideas that you put forward. I would like to now just invite Ajar to come on because I think he had some points to add earlier, which I unfortunately couldn't pick up from the microphone. So Ajar, over to you for your contributions.
Yes, thank you so much. So another after hearing some inputs, just would like to add two things. Maybe first about potential economic of AI. I believe all of you read a lot of papers that we see opportunity from current report that Indonesia will contribute 366 billions on economic AI, and ASEAN will have 1 trillion USD in 2030. So that's a big number, so an opportunity. I believe we need to do something in terms of in ASEAN Economic Forum, how we can collaborate and support the government, country members, private sectors to have this kind of AI journey, because we think this is an AI moment. Having technology and our experience to communicate with AI or computer, just like we communicate to coworker. This is also a good experience for us and helping us in unleashing creativity, having potential new discovery, innovations, and we do know we will be finding new trends in AI in 2024. But if now we are talking large language model, there will be small language model. There will be another multi-model that we are talking about not only text from generative AI, but there will be a lot of input from voice, picture, video, and a lot of potential innovations. The third one about innovations that I would like to share. Based on our internal research, if private sector or organizations invest $1 USD, there will be a potential economic return in 3.5 USD. Of course, it will be based on typical implementations, and there's several time to be taken, maybe let's say 14 months. So there's a lot of opportunity, and then I think as an Indonesian, I would like to see that we could lose this kind of opportunity for Indonesia and other ASEAN countries members, how we can harness this AI using, of course, still providing room for innovations, but ensures that responsible AI that protect on safe, secure, and trustworthy technology in place with the regulations. There's another room how we can support ASEAN country members to have AI responsible regulation. That's maybe additional information from me, Hans. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajar, for that. I mean, you did raise some very critical components as well, and I think it was emphasized by the others as well. So let me do this now. Let me can we put up that slide on the standards, the cartoon, the clip? Are you able to? Okay, I just wanted to show this particular one. When we talk about the standards that we probably need to do what we are trying to achieve, whether it is in AI, interoperability, and so on. This is a standard KCD, a panel that gets used very often about standards. I'm sure you can read this as good as I can, but I would just want to highlight the fact that we have a lot of standards out there already in one form or shape or manner. TCP/IP is a standard, and so on and so forth. And do we need yet another standard to achieve some of the things that we want to achieve? So having said that, looking at this cartoon, the thing is, we may end up having to create a brand new standard to interoperate everything else together, which is probably going to be a wasted effort in some sense. But at the same time, it serves an opportunity for us to pick up some new ideas as it comes along. So with that, let me now pose a question to all of you. And whoever wants to answer, please go ahead and either I can't see from here, but if you can prompt to somebody in the group, I can probably call you out. I have a question for you. there is this notion of a sovereign cloud. It's called the Sovereign Cloud Project out of Europe. The idea of the sovereign cloud is to be able to have full control of all the components you need to run within a country, a business, or whatever it might be, but more in general for a country perspective. The Sovereign Cloud Project is focused squarely on that. Now, the question then here is, if I run a sovereign cloud in my country or my organization, my ministry, my NGO, or whatever it might be, does the idea of an AI sovereignty fit in? And if it does fit in, how do you think it could work? So if there's anybody who's got any comments, I know you may be hearing the phrases sovereign cloud and sovereign AI for the first time, but what would the first few things that comes to your mind? Anybody, if you want to just chip in, please go ahead.
So Harish, if you can hear me.
Yes, go ahead.
So I don't know what sovereign means in that term, because if AI, as we all know, is an application that runs on internet infrastructure and the internet is borderless, how are you going to build sovereignty into it? Are you going to have someone standing at each pipe coming into the country asking for the passport of the data coming in and out? I don't think so. So I think if the intention indeed is to set up a system which perhaps uses localized servers and all that, whilst some parts of the system may indeed be able to do that, I am not convinced that all of it can do that, because there are APIs and stuff that may have dependencies on other things which may be running elsewhere. So maybe I've misunderstood what is meant by sovereign cloud, but just simply basing it on what the word sovereign means and what the word cloud means, I think that may add to the confusion as well, right?
Harish, if I may add.
Please go ahead.
So here again, 53% of the countries in the world in the UN have less than 10 million people. All this sovereign stuff applies to countries that have more than 50 or 100 million people, where you have adequate data by sliced through demographics and income levels and gender, etc., for any AI tool to work. And like Raj was saying, the very definition of sovereign and cloud is inimical to each other. I mean, that the whole idea of cloud was not to have sovereign. So if that's the way we are going, it's not going to be inclusive at all. We'll have to have clusters where, like ASEAN is coming together, we'll probably have to have clusters where sovereign is redefined in the cloud.
Thank you. I think that's helpful. Anybody else and you want to add to this? Cyrus, maybe?
Yeah, sure, Harish. I don't believe that anything sovereign will be long lasting. That's one thing. I mean, if you look at, where we are having this forum, the Indonesian forum, OJK, which is the regulator for banking, was insisting on data remaining sovereign within Indonesia. Now, the idea is sound, that we don't want Indonesia-specific data, or for that matter, Thailand or India-specific data leaving outside of India. Given the right parameters, banks and insurers are now able to demonstrate and prove to the regulators that the data is secure, it's within their firewall, and it's protected. I think the same is going to be true when it comes to AI-specific cloud. As long as you can demonstrate, because remember, the regulators don't know what they don't know. AI is too new and too raw for anyone to regulate. They themselves are learning. So as long as the incumbent, whoever that is, the first mover to market, can prove that, look, I'm going to AWS for analytics, and I can guarantee that the burst across and the compute is on AWS, but your data is not being compromised, and demonstrate to the regulators, I think that sovereign cloud, or whatever it is called, will be out of the window. Europe is extremely particular about PDPA and GDPR, and hence they're trying to protect the European Union members by restricting the use of Meta, Alphabet, and all of these AI engines coming around. I think it's a losing battle. They may not win. That's my take.
Thank you. Anybody else? Maybe let me do this now. There was an effort that is being funded by by Singapore for at the tune of about $52 million to build large language models for Southeast Asian languages. It is called Sea Lion, SEA -LION, Sea Lion. So if you search for it, you will find it. But what is interesting is that the Sea Lion, the intention here is, given the fact that a majority of the large language models that are out there are trained primarily in English, or a large percentage is in English, it becomes a challenge when you don't have the sufficient training done in local languages. So that's that effort there. Now, before I call for comments on that, let me just take in a comment that was being offered by Kishore. Kishore, could you please go ahead and unmute yourself and speak up? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harish. As some of the previous speakers mentioned, when we say about standardization, we should look at standardization of what we are speaking.
Our adoption of AI into any of use cases, is that standard what we are speaking? Perhaps we have to have a clarity on that front, when we speak about standardization. Yes, to bring in interoperability, to bring in, scale of economies, perhaps standardization is encouraged. But however, when it comes to using a technology in the local conditions, always, customization comes into picture. Maybe when a model gets developed, how it gets used, how it gets locally adopted, yes, there will be a lot of, different variables to make it more relevant to the local conditions. Their standardization becomes very flexible. To add, to invite, with the audience as well as other members here, the ITU is working on many of the, standardization activities through something called focus groups. It could be national disasters, it could be agriculture and IoTs, it could be metaverse. Wherever AI is being, being used or, made available, so those activities are already in progress. I invite all of you to be part of that engagement where enterprises could get benefit of, this engagement. See, when you say about, benefiting digital economy through AI or any emerging technology, we can, participate in that engagement beginning from the technology development itself, where many of the local variables, local conditions could get into in the development process, or we could remain as one of the users at the end of the value chain. So here the opportunity is that since many of the things are still getting developed, especially in terms of application, I exhort that enterprises, especially who are working on this AI applications as well as AI development, to engage with many of the these standards organizations, including ITU, so that they can see the way they can contribute, how the development process could be more suitable to their local conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore. I think that's standards again goes back to a lot of fundamental things that we need to be able to do, interoperability, and that grows the opportunity for entrepreneurs and businesses to participate. We are actually right now completely out of time. I just didn't realize that the time that was allocated has gone past us already, and we are into extra time. But I would just wanted to leave one comment here. There's been good enough discussion. Many aspects have been talked about. Unfortunately, we can't come to a conclusion of any sort, except I would just like to take some highlights of key points that was brought up. The idea of AI being a challenge, and we need to mitigate and trying to find a way to ensure that falsehoods and fake information is managed somehow. We heard about the request by some organizations around the world asking for governments to re-regulate it. My take on that, honestly, is that's probably they are trying to preempt competition so that they can be in a particular space that they will be able to manage. So the government regulations have a tendency sometimes to stifle rather than encourage competition. But having said that, that's still work in progress. I think the bottom line here is that we have a very wonderful opportunity ahead of us in ASEAN, given the 700 million people place that we are in, and the opportunities that are going to be significantly beneficial from an AI point of view. What does that mean if I'm going to be AI enabled, what does that actually mean? Does it mean I have to have large computing resources. Can these resources be made available on a basis that is highly cost recoverable? What else can we do? Do we need to have the kind of power systems that we need to make these things functional? So there's a lot of things that needs to be done. So I'm hoping that this will be the start of the first of many subsequent conversations. Plus, more importantly, action items that comes out of it, so that something actually happens and gets done. So with that, I think I will have to wrap it up, and I would like to now hand over to Ashish to bring us to the close. So thank you very much, all the panelists.
Harish, thank you so much for that. We covered, I think, very systematically the digital connectivity, DEFA, and the AI framework, IT standards, impact on humans. We had some very interesting comments from Raj. I think he spoke about the framework, but also to add to that, a roadmap, something which is actionable. We spoke about the AI national strategy for Indonesia, but I think we also added on that we should not have just a strategy, but we should also have a law. So we spoke about interoperability and we spoke about scalability. Most of the, I think, items were covered. I want to take this opportunity to now thank everyone and would like to invite Sachin to give his closing remarks.
Thank you, Ashish. And I really enjoyed the conversation today because, I felt that we are finally able to bring a common understanding of what are the issues across the whole region. Most often, we tend to talk about digitalization within a country. And the issues are quite different. But what are the issues that apply across the region? That's actually going to be a challenge. And just today, we had a meeting earlier in the day with the ASEAN Secretariat officials, and some of the key things that came up was that they really need to have policy making which is based on input from industry, input from private sector, input from the various other stakeholders who actually are going to be involved in the digitalization process and the usage of AI. So policy making cannot be disjointed. They can't be acting in unilateral mode. They have to be really consultative mode. And the way to do that is through forums like these. And so we hope that with the monthly schedule that has been set up for the ASEAN Digital Forum, we'll be able to take on a continuity of what was discussed earlier, at the same time introduce new topics. End of the day, the roadmap towards digitalization is actually one. There may be many small off turns and side turns here and there, but end goal would be that all of ASEAN needs to behave like a digital hub, in which case there has to be a lot of consensus on a lot of issues. And you're looking at this region really behaving like one large nation. And digitalization opportunities would then be democratized. It would open opportunities for the common man to participate in ways that they can improve their social status, their income, and how their livelihoods are connected to the digital world. I think we're still quite far away from digital literacy or digital adoption. We are not there where we want to be. We kind of assume that if you can operate your mobile phone, you are digitally literate. Well, it's a starting point, no doubt. But how do you make your mobile phone and digital connectivity earn you an income? So how can your livelihood be dependent on something digital? Whatever, it may be the most simple thing. And I think that definition also today is, if you can do online banking, you're digital. Yes, it's also a good start. But we are at the very tip of this iceberg of how digital really enables economic transactions, economic impact, social impact. We are at probably 0.1% of where it's going to head. So there's a big road or path or journey ahead, and we really have to bring along everybody in order to really make this meaningful for the common citizen of the world, if not just for ASEAN. For countries in the developing world, it's even more important because it's such kind of new sectors or areas or technologies that allow you to make quantum leaps and huge jumps in the development of your nation. If you saw the third and fourth industrial revolutions change the fate of several nations, now what is the fourth industrial revolution going to be doing? It's going to change the fate of many of those developing nations who adopt digital in a much faster and more efficient way, probably without baggage. So you could be seeing that certain countries in ASEAN will be able to be ahead of the game. We're seeing a few of them already doing that, and not have baggage of what some of the other nations have. So I think that opportunity really needs to be understood and needs to be given to the people to be able to act upon, and therefore we'll be able to build out the digital economy dream that we're all talking about. So with that's the comments I'd like to add today, and I really look forward to more sessions that are hosted by Harish and Ashish. You guys have done a great start for the ASEAN Digital Forum, and I think we should be able to do a lot more in the coming months. Thank you.